quiet village of Amanyi, where the evening sun kissed the dusty roads and barefooted children chased goats through the fields, there stood a small broken hut at the edge of the village. Its roof leaked whenever the rains came, and its walls were cracked like the dry skin of an old farmer. That lonely hut belonged to Mama Eka. People called her the woman who smiled through hunger. Every morning before the cock crowed, Mama Eka tied her faded wrapper tightly around her waist, balanced heavy firewood on her head, and walked miles to the market just to feed her only son, Chibunna.
Eat your food, Chibunna.
Mama, you eat too.
Eat your porridge while it is still warm. You need to grow big and strong.
I'm going to throw you and your son out of this hut someday.
In Africa, they say a mother's stomach can endure hunger, but her heart cannot endure seeing her child starve. Chibunna never knew the truth. He never knew that his wicked uncle seized the small piece of land his late father left behind and nearly threw them out of their home. He never knew that his mother worked on that same uncle's farm for 7 days before he finally allowed them to remain in the tiny hut that once belonged to her husband. He never knew that Mama Eka sold her only wedding necklace to pay his school fees. He never knew she borrowed salt from neighbors and cried silently whenever creditors knocked on the door. He never knew that the wrappers Mama Eka wore became thinner every year because she sold her better clothes to buy his textbooks.
Take your properties and leave this hut.
Please forgive me. I will work for you.
The villagers mocked her poverty. Some laughed whenever strong winds shook the fragile hut. Others whispered, "What future can come from a house that cannot survive the rain?" But Mama Eka always replied softly, "The chick that will become a rooster is noticed the very day it hatches." Years passed. Chibunna became the pride of the village. He gained admission to study medicine in the city. The whole village celebrated him. But nobody noticed Mama Eka sitting quietly behind her hut, wiping tears from her eyes, not tears of pain, tears of sacrifice, because Mama Eka alone knew the terrible price she had paid. To send her son to university, she sold the last piece of land her late husband left behind, the only thing she truly owned in this world. Before Chibunna left for the city, Mama Eka held his hands tightly and said, "My son, no matter how far a bird flies, it always remembers the tree where it learned to fly." And Chibunna replied, "Mama, when I become rich, I will build you the biggest house in this village." Mama Eka smiled, but deep inside, she was tired, very tired. Months turned into years. At first, Chibunna called often. Then, the calls became fewer. Soon, they stopped completely. Meanwhile, the wicked uncle continued tormenting Mama Eka. Still, every evening, Mama Eka sat outside her empty hut, waiting, hoping, praying. And whenever people mocked her for waiting by the roadside, she answered quietly, "Hope is the last cloth an old mother removes." One cold, harmattan morning, the village woke to silence. Mama Eka was gone. She died, alone inside the empty hut. No food, no light, no child beside her. Only an old photograph of little Chibunna rested gently on her chest. The villagers wept bitterly. Even the women who once mocked her cried that day. 3 days later, a shiny black jeep rolled into the village. Chibunna had returned, rich, successful, important, but too late. The moment he saw the empty hut surrounded by mourners, his legs trembled. He rushed inside and found the woman who sacrificed everything for him, lying lifeless on a raffia mat. At that moment, the entire village heard the cry of a grown man begging for one more chance. But death does not answer tears. An old man in the crowd shook his head sadly and said, "The child who abandons the mother that carried him will someday carry regret heavier than a coffin." That evening, rain began to fall. The same hut that once leaked over Mama Eka's head stood silent, empty, lonely, forgotten. And as thunder echoed across the dark village sky, Chibunna knelt in the mud and cried like a little boy. Because at last, he understood the greatest pain in life. You can replace money. You can rebuild houses. But you can never replace the mother who sacrificed her life so you could have one.